The Carp and the Hermit Thrush by Marie Yuen and by Dana Crum. The Carp. Long ago in Japan there lived a boy named Rosetsu who dreamed of becoming a painter. Not just any painter, but the greatest in all of Japan. Rosetsu's mother and father scraped and saved every penny so Rosetsu could attend art school. When the time came, Rosetsu kissed his parents goodbye and headed down the road to Kyoto, home of the famous Maruyama School, where Rosetsu hoped to study with the master painter Maruyama Okyo. Under the guidance of this brilliant teacher, Rosetsu might learn to be a master painter himself. Rosetsu had a long walk ahead of him, but his heart was filled with joy and excitement. "This is the way my future lies," he said to himself as he walked along the dusty road. He paused to watch a sparrow flying overhead and whistled softly to the bird as it soared over the treetops and out of sight. Making ink, preparing paper and silk, and learning the proper way to hold a brush will be bliss. And what paintings I shall create when I have learned all I have to learn from my sensei, Rosetsu said. By now it was midday, so Rosetsu found a shady spot to eat his lunch, beside the Kasura River. As he ate, he watched two turtles sunbathe on a nearby log. Just as Rosetsu finished his lunch, an elderly man, gray-bearded and bent from years of toil, appeared before him. Without so much as a hello, the man shook his crooked walking stick at Rosetsu and demanded, "Who are you, and what do you want?" "My name is Rosetsu, and I want to go to Kyoto so I can study at the feet of Sensei Maruyama Okyo and become a great painter," Rosetsu replied. "What makes you think you can be a great painter?" asked the man. "When I dream at night, that is what I am." It's a mystery how you can become a painter when you don't even have a painting brush," replied the man, nodding and stroking his beard. Rosetsu's eyes widened, and he asked, "How did you know I have no brush?" The man seemed not to have heard Rosetsu. "Let's see how you do without one. Paint a picture for me." "Without a brush, or ink, or paper, or silk?" "Long ago, painters worked without any of these," the man answered. "If you are meant to be a painter, prove it now, to quell the doubts inside you." "But I have no doubts about—" "Yes, you do." Rosetsu looked around in a panic until his eyes landed on a nearby tree. He broke off a twig and picked off a few berries, mashing and mixing them to form a kind of ink, and then he peeled off a piece of pale bark to paint on. With a few strokes of the twig, Rosetsu painted a picture of a sparrow and two turtles, and then he handed it to the stranger. The man stared at the painting in silence as Rosetsu nervously drew circles in the dirt with his foot. Suddenly the stranger clapped Rosetsu on the back and announced, "You, young man, are a painter, one destined to paint pictures more wondrous than the world has ever seen." "Thank you," Rosetsu said, a smile spreading the width of his face. Then he remembered where he was going, and that he had many miles to walk before he reached Kyoto, so he bowed and said, "Now, if you'll excuse me, I must be on my way." "Not before I give you this," replied the man, and suddenly, as if from thin air, he produced a painting brush, old and worn and nothing to look at, and placed in Rosetsu's hand. Rosetsu didn't want to hurt the stranger's feelings, so he smiled and thanked him, and he put the brush in his pack. Then he said goodbye to the stranger and continued on his journey. By the time Rosetsu arrived in Kyoto, it was nearly evening, and he worried the school would be closed. He was relieved to arrive at the gate and see the gatekeeper dozing there. The boy coughed loudly and then announced, "I'm Rosetsu, and I have come to see Sensei Okyo. It has been my dream to learn from the sensei. One day I hope to become a great painter like him." The gatekeeper yawned, rubbed his eyes, and then said, "That is a noble dream, my boy, but what if the sensei does not want to teach you?" This idea had never crossed Rosetsu's mind. "Then I would plead with him to reconsider," he replied. "I know he is a generous man, and when he hears my dream he will surely take me on as a student." Said the gatekeeper, furrowing his brow. "How long have you been painting?" Rosetsu's heart beat faster as he responded, "Not long, sir. but I am eager to learn. I also have a brush." As Rosetsu pulled the painting brush from his pack, the gatekeeper stared at it, his face reddening. "Where did you get this brush?" he demanded. "Did you steal it?" "No!" cried Rosetsu. "I met a stranger on my way to Kyoto. He told me to paint a picture, and then he gave me the brush." "Did he tell you his name?" "No. I have no idea who he was." The gatekeeper laughed and replied, "I now know you didn't steal this painting brush because you don't know its owner or its true worth. This brush once belonged to my own sensei, the great Ishida Yute." "Ishida Yute?" Rosetsu repeated, his eyes widening. "He taught Sensei Okyo." "Yes, I am Sensei Mariyama Okyo, and the stranger you met on your way here was Sensei Yute. If my sensei gave you his brush, he must think highly of you indeed. Of course, you will be admitted to Mariyama School. Here is your brush. Keep it safe so that one day, after proving yourself worthy, you will be ready to paint with it." "Thank you, Sensei!" cried Rosetsu. Rosetsu began to work and study in Sensei Okyo's studio. He started by preparing ink, paper, and silks for painting, and learning how to care for and repair brushes. Each morning he eagerly awoke in hopes that he'd be found worthy enough to paint with Sensei Yutai's brush, and every night he told himself, "Soon, soon." 3 years passed quickly. Rosetsu worked and studied, but he didn't make as much progress as he'd liked. As his classmates finished school and went on to become great painters, Rosetsu was left behind. He often felt discouraged and full of self-doubt. One day, as when Rosetsu was grinding more ink for class, he heard two students speaking in the hall. "Rosetsu has never completed a painting, not even once," one student said, adding, "It must be because he is missing something, like talent or taste." "Sensei Okyo is very hard on Rosetsu, much harder than he is on the rest of us," the other student said. "I think he's disappointed that Rosetsu will never be great." As the sound of their footsteps died away down the hall, Rosetsu was flooded with embarrassment and shame. He packed up his belongings and ran out of the school, relieved to escape into the cold winter night. He trudged through the snow for hours with no thought to his destination. Finally, when he could walk no more, he collapsed into a snowbank beneath some pine trees, where he burrowed under the snow and fell asleep. The sun was overhead by the time Rosetsu awoke. As he shook the snow off, he heard a loud splashing nearby. Soon he found the source. A giant carp was jumping wildly in the middle of a half-frozen pond. Just out of reach, on the ice, lay a senbai, a sweet, salty Japanese cracker. Rosetsu watched the carp as it twisted and turned and tried all sorts of tactics to reach the senbai. He marveled at the carp's determination. Each time the fish jumped, it broke a tiny bit of the ice and moved closer to the prize. Morning passed, noon came and went, and the sun began to sink. Yet the bruised and exhausted carp still did not give up. Finally, with one last leap, the fish broke through the remaining bit of ice between it and the senbai, grasped its hard-worn treat in its mouth, and swam away. Rosetsu laughed and clapped, cheered by the carp's spirit and determination. "If I am to succeed," Rosetsu said to himself, "I must be just like that carp, determined, persistent, and unwilling to give up. I'll ask Sensei Okyo how I can become worthy of Sensei Yutai's brush, and then I'll persevere until I gain my prize." Rosetsu returned to the Mariyama school with a fire in his belly and a gleam in his eyes. The next day, he was granted permission to meet privately with Sensei Okyo. "I must know why I have been kept behind these 3 years, when all my classmates have surpassed me," Rosetsu said. "Have I been careless with my work?" "No," the sensei replied. "You are a conscientious worker, but your own doubts have held you back. A great painter doesn't abandon his paintings halfway through for fear they won't be good enough. You must believe in your own talents if you want others to do so." Rosetsu said, "So you don't think I am without talent?" "Had you no talent, I wouldn't have accepted you in the first place. Did not Sensei Yutai give you his brush? Yes, Ruzetsu said. He smiled and bowed. Thank you, Sensei. I shall do my best every day from now on, and soon, I hope, I will be ready to use my brush. Ruzetsu studied and worked harder than ever, and he completed many paintings, each one more dazzling than the last. After another year passed, his skills and knowledge were almost equal to those of Sensei Okyo. Then came the glorious day he was allowed to paint with Sensei Yutai's brush. His choice of subject matter? It was a carp, of course, in honor of the one that inspired him to persist no matter what. And so it was, though Ruzetsu became not only one of Sensei Aoko's best pupils, but one of Japan's greatest painters of all time. The Hermit Thrush. Characters: Hayate Watanabe, a 13-year-old boy. Wakana, Hayate's 15-year-old sister. Mom. Dad. Ben, Hayate's best friend. Setting: the Watanabe home in Los Angeles, California. Act 1, Scene 1. It's Saturday, the day of the family's weekly concert. Mom, Dad, and Wakana sit in the living room. An acoustic guitar leans against Dad's chair. Mom holds a pair of drumsticks in her lap. Wakana thumbs through a book of sheet music. Hayate is last to arrive, carrying his saxophone. He sits in the corner and stares down at his sneakers. Dad, to Hayate. You made it! Hayate shrugs. Mom. Let's get started. Who would like to go first this week? Wakana. Hayate, didn't you say you wanted to go first? Hayate. He looks up. He stares at Wakana. No, I didn't. Mom. I'll start. I'm going to play the drum solo from a song I loved in college. Mom plays her drum solo expertly. When she finishes, she stands. Wakana. That was awesome! Dad. Yes, it was a little too good. Don't leave us and join a rock band, okay? Mom smiles. Mom. So who's next? Hayate, sighing. I'll go. I might as well get it over with. Dad. What will you play this week, Hayate? Hayate. Just a jazz piece my music teacher taught me. Hayate stands and raises his saxophone to his mouth. He takes a breath. Harsh sounds come from the saxophone. Beads of sweat appear on Hayate's forehead. He stops playing before finishing the song. Wakana. Yikes! Your sax sounds like a sick moose. Mom. Wakana! Dad. Be more supportive of your brother. Wakana. Sorry, Hayate. I was just joking. Hayate storms out of the living room. Mom follows him and stops him in the hallway. Mom. Don't pay attention to Wakana. Hayate. She's right, though. I can't play well. I've been taking lessons for a long time now, and I practice every day. But I don't think I have what it takes. Mom. I know you're frustrated, but just keep at it. Everyone struggles sometimes. Hayate. I don't see you, Dad, or Wakana struggling. You all play your instruments perfectly, and it seems to come to you naturally. Why don't you have these Saturday concerts without me? I should be doing something else. Something I'm actually good at. Mom. Don't give up so easily. Why don't you come back to the concert? Your father and Wakana haven't performed yet. Hayate. Can I just go to my room, please? Mom. Okay, I suppose so. Hayate slumps as he walks down the hall to his room. Act 2, Scene 1. It's Sunday, the next day. Hayate is standing in his room, clutching his saxophone. His friend Ben is glancing at Hayate's sheet music. Ben, looking up. Let's go shoot some hoops. Hayate. Okay. I don't feel like practicing this song anymore anyway. What's the point? I'll never be any good. Ben. Not with that attitude you won't, young man. Hayate frowns at Ben. Ben. Just kidding, dude. That's what my parents said all the time when I wanted to quit piano. Lessons and practicing scales and all that. I got really sick of it. It made me all stressed out, too. My parents kept insisting I should have a better attitude. I told them I'd have a better attitude if I could quit. Hayate. So they just let you? Ben. Well, no. It was kind of strange, actually. They gave me an electronic keyboard for my birthday, and for some reason, when I started playing that, it was fun. I didn't feel anxious when I played it. I just loosened up, and that helped me relax when I played our big grand piano, too. Hayate stared quietly, playing a tune he made up. Ben. Whew! That's good. Hayate. I'm just messing around. That's the only time I sound okay. Ben. Maybe you need to loosen up too. Spend more time playing what you want to play and less time trying to be perfect. Hayate, his voice full of doubt. Maybe. Scene 2. It's Monday. Hayate is practicing in his room, staring at his sheet music. His saxophone wails. He throws the music aside. Hayate, I don't even like that song. I never want to play it again. Wakana, peering around his open doorway. Sounds like a good idea to me. Hayate, yeah, I know. I sounded like a sick moose. Wakana, no, it wasn't bad. You should only play music you love, though. Hayate, I'd ruin that too. Maybe I shouldn't play anything at all. Wakana, if you don't like the saxophone, why don't you tell Mom and Dad you want to quit? Hayate, I love the sax. I'm just not good. Anyway, they'd be so disappointed. Wakana, well, you should only keep playing if you like it. Do you know this quote? The bird doesn't sing to please others. It sings because it is happy. Hayate, what? Wakana, just something I read once. Scene 3. It's Thursday. After practicing his sax, Hayate has gone outside to the backyard to get some fresh air. Hayate, talking to himself. Why can't I learn to play better? Last week, I left the concert early. This week, I won't go at all. Suddenly, Hayate hears the beautiful sound of a hermit thrush singing in a nearby tree. Hayate watches and listens. Hayate, to the hermit thrush. If only I could play as well as you sing, little bird. He listens as the bird finishes its song and then starts again. Hayate, to the hermit thrush. You don't study music. You can't read notes, but you sing beautifully. Hayate looks thoughtful. Maybe I should do what you do. I should play what's in my heart. I should feel the music and stop thinking so much. The hermit thrush continues to sing. Scene 4. Hayate goes back to his house and returns to his room. He picks up his saxophone. He starts to play a melody with his eyes closed, swaying gently as he plays. The notes sound fuller and rich, not harsh as they usually do. The tune has some echoes of the hermit thrush's song. Act 3, Scene 1. It's Saturday. Mom, Dad, Wakana, and Hayate sit in the living room. Dad is the first to perform. Hunched over his acoustic guitar, he strums and sings a beautiful tune. Wakana. That was great, Dad. Mom. Who'd like to go next? Hayate. I'll go. He stands. I'm going to perform a song I'm writing. It's not finished yet. He begins to play. His performance is heartfelt and animated, and the smiles and sways as he plays. He hits a few off notes, but mostly he plays well. Wakana. You sounded good, Hayate, and you looked happy for a change. Mom. I didn't know you were writing your own music. Hayate. Yeah, I just got inspired, I guess. Hayate grins as he sits down. Mom winks at him. Dad pats him on the back. Scene 2. It's Saturday, 2 months later. In the living room, the Watanabe family watches and listens while Hayate plays his saxophone. He looks relaxed and happy as he plays. Dad, smiling. That was great, Hayate. What was that song? Hayate. It's the song I started writing a couple of months ago. Mom. It's beautiful. It sounded almost like a bird song. Hayate, blushing. Thanks. I call it Ode to a Hermit Thrush.